One of the questions I get asked the most is, how did I get into writing? And the answer is pretty simple because I've always had a love of writing. I've always loved reading books and I've always imagined writing my own story one day. Like, even as a child, I would have a little journal that I would write down short stories in, or poems, or sometimes even like song lyrics. And I had a hard time sleeping growing up, so I spent a lot of time just reading books and really having a love of stories and storytelling. And in school, growing up, throughout my entire school career, all the teachers would be like, you should be a writer one day. And I never really thought that that was something that I could do. Like, to me, becoming an author was like something along the lines of becoming a famous singer or a musician, like something that just wasn't attainable in my mind. So I went to school for teaching. I became a teacher. And it wasn't until I was 29 years old that I decided I'm going to start writing this story that I had in my head for a while. And at that time, I was in a really bad marriage to a very violent, toxic man. And I was very unhappy, needless to say. So I had shoulder surgery that summer and I was miserable. Like, not only am I having so much pain from this surgery and trying to recover and basically learning how to reuse my arm and my shoulder all over again, but I'm stuck in the house. I can't drive, I can't go anywhere, and I'm stuck with this person who is hurting me and who I'm just so unhappy with. So it was a really dark time for me. And my friend brought me over her Kindle and she was like, you should read some books while you're here, just sitting around. Read this book. It is such a good book. I think you're going to really like it. And I will tell you the book that it was, but I don't love the author, unfortunately, because she came out, with some really toxic behavior. So I don't support her, but this was the first book that I read in the romance genre that made me think like I should become an author myself. So I sat there on my couch in a sling, crying most of the day, and I read Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire. And at the time, this is before she came out with all of her awful stuff. I loved the story. I was just completely obsessed with it. I read it cover to cover in like the matter of like hours. And I was like, you know what? I could do this. Like, this story that she wrote, I could write something like this. Like, I'm capable of writing a story like this. So I opened up my laptop with one arm because my left arm was in a sling, and I sat there day in and day out and I started writing the book that is now Collision. I wound up having to take a little break from writing because I wound up finding the courage and the strength to get a divorce from my ex-husband. And that was a really, as you can imagine, that was a really difficult time for me. So I moved back home with my mom and I kind of just put the book on the back burner and was like, okay, I can't focus on this right now. And a couple of years later, I opened my laptop back up and I said, you know what? I'm going to do something with this book because I really love this story. It came from my heart. And I'm like, I'm going to do this because my ex-husband would laugh at me when I would sit there trying to write. And he would be like, what are you writing? This is so stupid. Like, why are you doing this basically? Anything to like put me down. And I was like, if I do this for any other like purpose, it's going to be for me. I'm going to write the story and publish it just to prove to myself that I can do this. And that's what I did. I Googled how to publish a book. I knew I wasn't going to go the traditional publishing route because that was just going to take forever. And I really honestly didn't want to sit there and deal with rejection after rejection. I looked into self publishing. I found Amazon's KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. And it walks you through step by step everything that you need to do to upload your book. And then I was like, okay, obviously I need to find a cover designer and an editor and figure out like the world of publishing that I had no clue what I was doing. But I taught myself. I looked it all up on Google. I went on Instagram. I found Bookstagram. I found other authors there who were like indie authors like me. I asked questions and I literally just published Collision and maybe three people downloaded it. And two of them were like family members and one of them was like my friend. So I had no clue when I was starting out like what to do and what, you know, it didn't become what I am until years later when I figured out social media and marketing and and what to do with myself. So that's honestly, it's not like a glamorous story. It's just I decided I'm going to do the thing that I've been passionate about my whole life. I'm going to write a book. And I just sat down and I wrote. Like, I didn't sit there with any preconceived notions of what I should be writing. I didn't know what tropes were. I had this cover that, if you have been with me from the beginning, you know, the original Collision cover with that fiery car that's like super digitized on the cover. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I love seeing my journey from Collision until now, 15 books later. I still am amazed that I did that. I crawled my way out of my own personal hell of that marriage that I was in. And it's like my own personal success story. So I really didn't have any help other than just asking random people, questions about publishing, and kind of just learned as I went and flew by the seat of my pants. So if you are looking into writing your own story, just sit down, open up your laptop, and start writing. Like, there's nobody out there who's going to tell you what's right and wrong with the story that's in your head. Don't be pressured by tropes or like what's happening in the market right now. Like, your first book is going to be your baby. That's like your perfect experience with writing that's untainted by the marketing aspect of it. So just throw it out there and see what happens and start your journey, and you'll be amazed at the things you can accomplish.